Now I will go to the judging criteria. But before I commence that, I would like to emphasize that the judges must be anonymous. And what that means is that when you are getting into, or when you are joining the call in the contest, you must not have a profile picture. You must not have your name. Of course, you will have names as allocated by the chief judge. And we ask that you don't speak about it publicly. Maybe there's a meeting coming up and you're saying, oh, I can't take that role because I'm a judge in this and this contest. We ask that you don't do that. You must remain totally anonymous. Now, here is where the rubber meets the road. I would ask as I start that you let me know why you attend contests. If you are not a contestant, why do you attend contests? I know a contestant will attend to win, to engage themselves, but if you are part of the audience, why do you attend? We know this is actually the center of the matter in the contest. So we can go on with the judges' criteria, the judges' guide. As a judge, you must take notes. Because there are several contestants, please have a pen and a paper to take notes using the criteria that we shall show you. Use the suggested points. Gauge yourself and use the points and the values that are shown on the ballot. There will be pluses and minuses. As we see, there's a range and we'll look at them critically, but please use this category and the criteria provided. We need you to do that because we want us to be on the same page. We want to use the same criteria for every contest. And we all want to use the same scale for all the contestants across all the clubs and across all the areas. There are three judging categories, three main judging categories. We have the content, which takes 50%. We have the delivery and we have the language. We shall look at each one of them critically. Next. Under contest, which takes 50%, we have the development, speech development. Under speech development, you will want 20%. And in this 20%, you will look at the speech structure. How is this speech structured? Do we have an opening? Do we have a body? Do we have a conclusion? Then you will move to speech organization. How is it organized? Can you follow it? Are you able to follow the story as the contestant is speaking, or is it haywire? Does the contestant have supporting materials? Those three areas you will give 20%. Then we go to effectiveness. When we go to effectiveness, we look at, did the speech achieve its purpose? What interest did it get out of the audience? And how did the audience receive that speech? According to you, that will get 15% of the marks. Then we go to the speech value. How are the ideas that the contestant voiced? Was there a logic? Did he have an original thought, a thought that will make you think, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way? That you will give 15%. And as you can see it, we have 11 to 14, we have 6 to 10, and we have 0 to 5. So using your own discretion, you will allocate that 15% on speech value, 0 to 15%, depending on how the contestant presented. Then we have delivery. In delivery, we have the physical. The delivery takes 10%. The delivery takes 30%, but we have the physical that will take 10%. How did the contestant appear? Was it in rhyme to the speech he or she is giving? How is the body language? Is he or she using appropriate body language? And how is the contestant utilizing the speaking area? Depending on the performance of that contestant, you give them 0 to 10%. We go to voice. Is the voice flexible? Did we hear high speaking tone? Did we hear low pitch? Was the contestant whispering or speaking loudly? You know, depending on the speech. How was it? How was the volume? Were you straining to hear the contestant? Or the contestant was very audible? That you give 0 to 10%. Then we go to manner. Was the contestant direct? Was the contestant assured? And I can get another one for assurance is confident. So that we give 10%. The enthusiasm, the interest, the positivity in that speech. That falls under manner. Under Sanchanch, you are want 0 to 10% of the marks. We go next to language. In the language, we look at appropriateness, to the speech purpose. Was the language appropriate? Was it appropriate to the audience? If you feel that was good, you rate it from 0 to 10%. Was it suitable in that circumstances? Was that language suitable? Look at it under Sanchanch, decide between 0 to 10%, how much you will want for that session. And correctness. Correctness gets 10%. Correctness means, was the grammar correct? This is like, for example, if the contestant is talking and says, oh, I was waiting for my sister. He came, instead of saying she came, that means that grammar is not correct. Pronunciation. Did she pronounce well? The pronunciation is different from the accent. For example, if you are talking about, let me give an example of a word like down. She fell down. If the contestant said she fell down, that pronunciation is not correct. But an accent is the intonation of the person. We have different accents in this panel, and there are different accents in every country. Now, as a judge, you do not look at the intonation. The intonation is something that makes you feel like that contestant is speaking in a foreign intonation. That you do not use it as a criteria. You use the pronunciation. Then word selection. How appropriate did they select the ones that they are using in their speeches? As a judge, you look at that and you rate it from 0 to 10%. Next, please. Now, when we look at the judge's ballot, one thing I have to say that once you get your ballot as a judge, you must sign it and put your name on it. If you do not do that, that becomes a spoiled ballot and it is waste. So your ballot must be signed and you must have a name here and you put your name here. The voting judges, ranks from the first place, which is 3 points, to the second place, which is 2 points, and then the third place, which is 1 point. You put the names as indicated, like you can see. I would encourage that you use the 2 names of the contestant, just in case sometimes we have contestants sharing 1 name. So please ensure that you put both names of the contestant, sign the ballot, and put your name. And as you see here, the ballot has been torn the lower part. You only need the lower part. That is what you will send to the ballot counters. You take a photo and you send to the ballot counters. Please do not delete that, keep it. The ballot counter may need it again or may lose network or something. Just keep that ballot paper. But if it is physical, if it's a physical contest, you do your ballot, put in an envelope and hand it over to the ballot counters. Okay, let's go to the next. We have to emphasize again that unless your ballot is signed, it is not valid. Unless you have put a name on your ballot, it is waste. So please put, if possible, 2 names for place, first place, second place, and third place, and sign and put your name. Sometimes you will not be able to transmit your ballot electronically, so just print it out. And I always suggest, if you can print out the ballot, even if you are doing it electronically, just in case you lose network or you are unable to transmit it, you take a picture and you send to the ballot counter. Thank you. Let's go to the next. Now, the time-breaking judge's ballot. As a time-breaking judge, you have to rank from the first place to the last contestant. You don't just do the 3. And please do not assume that because there are 5 judges or there are 7 judges, that there won't be a tie. As a time-breaking judge, you must be there and you must rank the contestants from the first to the last. If there are 10 contestants, you must rank from first to the 10th contestant. You must sign your ballot, you must write your name. But I have to emphasize that the time-breaking judge's ballot does not go to the ballot counter. The time-breaking judge's ballot goes to the chief judge. And remember, it's only the chief judge who knows the time-breaking judge. All the judges will know each other. They may know each other, but the time-breaking judge remains a secret, only known to the chief judge. So even when the judges are being briefed by the chief judge, the time-breaking judge will be briefed alone. He or she will not join the judges group if it's WhatsApp group. If it is physical, she will remain anonymous. He or she will remain anonymous. So the time-breaking judge's ballot goes to the chief judge only, because it will only be used where there's a tie. But it must be signed and it must have your name, and you must rank from the first to the last contestant. All right, let's go to the next. Now, what are the reasons for which a contestant may be disqualified? There are 3 criteria. We can go to the next. There's eligibility, originality, and timing. Now, a judge participates in the disqualification of a contestant in the first 2 areas. For the timing, you leave it to the timer. So the judge, as they are judging, you do not consider the time the contestant is taking. That is not up to you. You ignore that part. the eligibility criteria, if it comes to your notice that the contestant is not qualified, or the contestant work is not original, maybe they have quoted another contestant, then that can be raised by the judge or by the contestant. By the judge or by the contestant. And then judges will not listen to the audience in these cases of disqualifying a contestant. It is a judge's personal decision. If he feels that the contestant is not eligible for that contest or the speech is not original. And how do we do that? We can go to the next. If there's a protest, either the contestant or the judges will regard eligibility and originality only. And foreign protest to be from the judge or the contestant, that must be announced or brought forward before the winner is announced. This can be raised to the chief judge. So the judge will inform the chief judge that there is a protest on a contestant, either based on the eligibility or originality. A contestant can also raise a protest to the chief judge, but this must be made before the contest chair has announced the winner. And in that position, it is dealt with by the chief judge and the contest chair. After that, once a winner has been announced, the judge's decision is final. The judge's decision is final and it cannot be changed. Now, before I close, I would like just to mention a few issues. If as a judge, you are participating in any contest, please look at the eligibility criteria so that you don't judge in a contest where you are participating. If the chief judge does not receive the Code of Ethics and Eligibility Criteria form signed by the judge before the contest starts, that judge cannot take part in that contest. If the judge falls off the call during the contest, he or she must inform the chief judge immediately. And the chief judge will make a decision either to get a standby judge, or if, for example, you have more than 5 judges, then you can decide not to consider the ballot for that judge. If the judge missed a part of the contestant's speech or missed one of the contestant's speech, they must inform the chief judge immediately. If they are unable to get into the contest, they must inform the chief judge immediately so that the chief judge is able to get a standby replacement, or if they have enough judges, to let that judge drop off. If you are a judge, please remember that you make all the difference in a contest. Remember to be fair, remember to follow the code of ethics. And if you are not able to, please let the chief judge know. I think that's all for me for now, and I'm calling for any questions and answers.
Thank you, Sheba. Thank you, Connie, for leading us in that session. There's actually a question for you, Sheba, on the chat. Yes. Somebody asks, how can a judge determine the perceptions of the audience during online speech contests?
Thank you, Joy. The judge here acts on behalf of the audience. first, he or she will determine everything because there's no time to ask the audience. But from your own opinion, using the criteria that we gave, that is what you determine the performance of the contestant.
Shiva, maybe I can help you with also an observation I've had also on my end.
Yes.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, sure.
Also the question, when I saw that question, my first thought was, how do you gauge the audience's participation? You can gauge it by seeing whether people follow. Once an audience starts falling off, you'll know that something may not be right. But as Shiba has said, yes, it is the judges and the chief judge's observation during the contest. And I think I had mentioned this earlier, is where as a judge, and as a chief judge, apart from your listening skills, you also have to be very observant with the environment, especially in the online contests. Check and see who's dropping off. Check and see who's putting comments. Check and see who's putting emojis of either a smiling face or a clap or a thumbs up. That is how you gauge the audience's participation during an online contest. Back to you, Joy, Shiba, Connie.
Shiba and Connie, I actually also have a question. In the instance that you have to hold a physical contest, how do you ensure that the judges still remain anonymous?
Yeah, that's always difficult. I don't know how you used to face it, Sheba, but it's you just have to make sure that the ballot counters collect the ballots as discreetly as possible, spread the judges out, and yeah, just try and keep them anonymous. But we usually struggled with that. Sheba, I don't know what your experience was.
My experience in a physical contest, it's hard to keep the judges anonymous, but they remain anonymous until that time of the contest because they have to fill in their ballot and hand it over to the ballot counter, but they remain anonymous until that time of the contest.
Yeah. And also, I guess during the contest, they really shouldn't be clearly filling in paper and whatnot. They themselves should also try and be discreet. But yes, once the decision is made, the decision is made. I mean, then the judges may become known, but yeah, we try our best to make sure they stay anonymous.
I can chip in here as well. We had a contest at Kilele when we were still having the physical contests, and the judges were sitting separately. And what we did is we took a tea break during the time of handing out ballots. So the judges, the chief judge, and the contest chair, you're having tea, you're chatting, you're picking them up discreetly. So in a physical contest, it can actually happen. And then there was one contest I think we had at Standard Chartered, Chiromo. Yes, Standard at Chiromo, where we also did take a tea break. And during the briefing, it had been discussed that we will exchange the ballots when we're probably either having tea or away from the contestants. So it can happen very discreetly and it can happen very well, but it all depends on how the chief judge and the contest chair arrange it amongst the judges. But it can also be fun. Like we said, Toastmasters, let's have fun, and it can be done very well.
Thank you for that. There is another question in the chat that is about possibly protests and what happens if a judge is unable to determine the originality of a speech. What happens in this situation and how much time should they be given to determine, I guess, the originality of the speech or to sort out the whole situation?
Yes, the judges are keenly listening. So the originality here, we are talking about, did the contestant quote the earlier contestant speech, or did they use a speech that has been used before by somebody else? We have that time of the contest to determine if that was done. If then the judge is able to prove that, or is able to realize that this contestant is using a speech that has been used elsewhere, then he or she can launch a protest.
Maybe Sheba, is there a particular amount of time after you realize how long? Because isn't there an instance where that delays the contest?
The duration is from when the contestant speaks up to before the winner is announced.
Okay.
Because once the winner is announced, then that's final.
Thank you.
Also, one thing we also need to do is also learn from the online contests we held in the last Toastmaster year. Sometimes when there was a delay, we had either the SAA or the contest chair run at either a tip session or a game session. So we always have a backup for if we feel that there's a delay or there's something that's happening that may not have been planned for. The SAA, the contest chair, or the organizer of the contest has a small game session so that the contestants and the participants in the meeting do not realize that there's a delay in something. And that is when, because I remember, I think last year we had a point where there was a protest, but nobody in the audience realized because the game session was going on. So that's something we also need to incorporate when we're doing our club and area contests, that let's have a few 5-minute game session, 2-minute game session, so that if there's a problem in the background, the audience or the participants do not notice it.
Thank you very much.
Joy, back to you, Joy.
Thank you, June. I don't see any other questions. Maybe I'll allow Toastmasters to unmute and share any questions they have in the next minute. Right, I don't see anyone unmute or type in the chat yet. I would like to thank all our trainers. Thank you, Sheba. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Christine and Timothy, for leading us in these sessions. I know that we're going to have quality club and area contests with this information we have learned. There will be another training that focuses mainly on the division and district contest. And I would like to hand over to the TLI chair to close this meeting.
I don't know if Gilbert was still here. He was actually meant to close, was he not? He's not here anymore, but I'd just like to express my same thanks as Joy has done. Joy, especially because you're in charge of contests this year. I really must congratulate you on a very, very successful training. And I'd like to appreciate the people who came to this training. As I said at the beginning, you are clearly, Sheba, okay, sorry, are you sharing the evaluation? I already shared it. You are clearly committed to giving the best service to your divisions, to your areas, to your clubs, and to your fellow Toastmasters. I hope it has been useful, but I would like to repeat that you really must read the contest rulebook, because we can't cover everything in that rulebook, and make sure that you are as well informed as possible. Fantastic effort from our trainers, knowledgeable, enthusiastic, engaging, and to our audience as well, or our participants who also gave a lot of input to the sessions, I would like to say that go in peace and serve your fellow Toastmasters.